Hi folks, CodeTutor here and my name is Anil Deshpande. Welcome to another video on unit testing in Android. If I try to summarize what we have tested so far, we have tested the repository, and to test the repository we created the fake service, we created the entity, and then we created the DAO which repository depends on, and using the fake service and DAO we tested the repository. Now beyond this there is another thing, which is the database itself. We have not yet tested database. Typically in Android, the database is SQLite based and it is Room database that is used to implement the on-device database. Now the question is, how do we test the database itself? And that is what the focus will be in the next couple of videos, which is testing the SQLite database that is part of Android application. Well, there are three ways in which you can test the database. One is simple in-memory way of testing. The second one is using a framework called as Robolectric. And the third one is Android itself provides framework which allows you to test the database in an instrumented manner. So let's quickly compare and contrast these three things to get a sense of how testing the database in these three different ways would mean different things. The first is, where do you execute these test cases? In case of simple in-memory, you test it in the JVM, so it's running locally on the JVM machine. And then Robolectric also uses JVM. It is just a framework that allows you to run your database test cases in the JVM itself. And in case of RoomDB instrumentation, it actually runs on a real device or an emulator in which you would be testing. So that is the reason why, in terms of the speed, in-memory and Robolectric both are probably the fastest way you can get the result in terms of amount of time it takes to run the test cases. But in case of instrumented, it is slow because you have to boot up the device, you have to delete the databases in the device and reset it up again. So that is why it is a little bit slower compared to other two things. And what are you really testing? Are you testing the SQLite? In case of simple in-memory, you are not. You are not really testing SQLite itself. You are simulating it. In case of Robolectric, the framework simulates SQLite to the maximum extent, so it is slightly better than the simple in-memory. And in case of RoomDB instrumented, it is proper native SQLite that you would have on the Android device. That's what actually you are testing. And just going a little bit ahead, are you really testing the Room database itself? In case of simple in-memory, no, you are not really testing the Room database. You are just simulating the behavior of the DB, which is a complete fake that you have implemented. In case of Robolectric, yes, because the framework takes care of it. And then in the final, once again, it is yes, you are actually testing the Room database. So I think by now you should have a fair idea of what these three different things would mean when it comes to testing the database in Android as part of unit testing effort. So what we will do is, we will understand how to write the test cases in all of these three different ways and get a proper understanding of how this is supposed to be done. So let's get into a demo. So this is the code base that we have been already familiar with. If you come to the test case folder here, test, you have written the repositories, doubles, fakes, stubs, everything. So what we will do right now is test the database. So this is our DAO. This is where it is implemented here in the repository. And we have also implemented the database, that is app database using entities. And then you have converters. We did not need any converters here in this case because our model country is pretty simple. Now you see that we have added even the entity annotation. So I don't want to take you through the implementation details of how the Room database itself implemented, because that itself is a separate tutorial. And if you are new to Room database and want to learn it, I suggest you go through the Room database series, which is already there on CodeTutor. And then there is this country Room DAO which uses queries. Now what we will do is, we will demonstrate the very first one, which is simple in-memory way of testing it. So let me close all this. Let me open a new package here. Let me call it as database, and here I will create a class called as in-memory country DAO. This extends country DAO. And when you extend that, you basically implement get all, insert all. Since this is a in-memory country DAO, this is all completely fake. To do that, let me create a private val. To simulate it, I will create a map, countries map, which is a mutable map of string and country. Get all basically returns countries map dot values dot to list, and then here this does the insertion. So countries dot for each country, so lambda function, country map country dot name equal to country. That is how I insert the value. I fix the spelling, and this is the in-memory database. Now I want to test this, so what I will do is I will create a new Kotlin class in-memory country DAO test. Once again, the way we write our test cases doesn't change at all. We will create a private late init variable of fake DAO, fake country DAO, and this would be in-memory country DAO, and then we will write before annotation function setup. In this we basically set the fake DAO with in-memory country DAO, and then we will write the first test case. So what do we want to test? We want to test whether the insertions are happening properly or not. So function insert and read test, can write run test. You basically insert and read the operations of the DAO in this. So once again we follow arrange, act, assert mechanism, that is AAA mechanism which we had talked about earlier. In the arrange we will create the test country with Brazil that drives on the right hand side, and then what we will do is we will insert this particular test country into the in-memory database, that is fake dot insert all list of test country. So once the insertion is done, I want to read back the value. So val result is equal to fake dot get all, and then I will have to assert. So assert equals expected is 1 and result dot size should be 1. That is one way of testing. Second one is we want to test that the value that got inserted in it is actually Brazil. So that is the second one, and then the drive side of that particular value Brazil is right. So this is another assert that we are doing, and this is how you write the test. So let me run this. It's working perfectly fine. Now let me minimize this and write couple of more tests. For example, I will write a function which will test multiple inserts. So function insert multiple and retest is equal to run test, and inside run once again I will initially arrange it. I will create a list of countries, and then after that I will act, in which case it is the insertion, and then finally I will do the assertions. I am expecting 3 values to be there, 2 on the right drive side and 1 on the left drive side, because I already know what is getting added here. So that is another test, and let me write one more test. In this case, I want to check what happens if I insert a country which already exists. So let me write another test function replace existing country test, run test, and inside the run test once again I will arrange, I will insert a country Sweden right into the fake DAO, and then next time I will act. In this case I will insert the same country again, but this time the drive side is left. I have changed the drive side, and now I will get the result, and after that I will start asserting. That is, it should still have only one inserted value. The name of the country still should be Sweden. However, the drive side should be left. It should replace it. That's the expectation. And what I can do is I can run all of these test cases in one single go by clicking on this at the class level. Yeah, all of them are running. And as you can see, to run these test cases, it ran in the JVM, and the place we wrote these test cases is in the test folder. And these ran pretty fast. They were taking around 1 millisecond to run each of these tests. So In the next video, we will talk about how I would have written a very similar unit test case using Robolectric. So stay tuned for the next. Brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.